Looky there. Wow. Is it a compact? Is it a mid-size? It's a compact size, a mid pack. Well, it's actually a compact, I think, basically. But it looks bigger than it is. That fascinates me. It must be a trick of some sort of design elements that make it look larger than it is. But here is our GMC Terrain AT4 package. And as you can see, it's got a lot, excuse me, it has a lot of very nice styling cues that go with the AT4 package, including those beautiful black wheels. And it's got this interesting swooping thing going on around your rear. Let's take a look at this, shall we? This is what we call a swoop in my design school that I have not yet started teaching yet, but I shall teach if any college will ever hire me to do that, even though I'm completely unqualified. But it's interesting, and it certainly gives it a unique look. I'll give them that. Not a whole lot of them out there with that swoop right there. But it's a nice looking vehicle. I kind of find it to be distinctive, and GMC has this thing where they not only have to distinguish themselves from the non-GM competition, but they also need to distinguish themselves from the GM competition, which is your Chevrolets. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly like, say, an Equinox or something like that, but they, let's say there's sharing going on between the companies. But you still get something unique in many, many aspects with a GMC product, especially in terms of drivetrain. They're never exactly the same as what you get on your Chevrolets. So it gives you more choice, and we'll talk more about that in depth very shortly. And here we have our 1.5 liter turbocharged Ecotec, which those followers of the channel have seen before in comparison to the Mazda CX-5 2.5 liter turbo. But anyway, as I mentioned in that video, there's your turbocharger right up front there. And 1, 2, 3, 4 cylinders that way. And in the back we have your intake system as far as fuel and everything else. Kind of interesting that they do it this way. Turbocharger, fuel injection, you see, is how we do it. But anyway, this lively little power plant puts out 170 horsepower at 5,600 RPM, which is really spinning when you think about it. I mean, if the engine is turning 5,600 revolutions per minute, then this turbocharger at that point must be really spinning. I mean, you know. But anyway, torque. You may be wondering about that. Well, there's 203 feet of torque per pound, or pound-feet. I can never understand these units. Between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM, which is fairly low. So that's good, because you want your torque down low if possible. This little engine, as mentioned, either you've seen this cut or not, but it's connected to a 9-speed transmission. You can get it with front-wheel drive or with all-wheel drive, like our test unit has. And it's a good fit, that 9-speed transmission with this. It seems to work together quite well. And for those seeking the ultimate in economy, you can just get the front-wheel drive version, if you are so inclined. Otherwise, it's a pretty nice little engine, and I mean little. There's motorcycles that have bigger engines than that, And yet, despite the fact that it's only what some would say a measly 170 horsepower, it does a very nice job of getting this vehicle around. I mean, it's good, I must say. But you say, Boots, can you tow with it? Well, according to General Motors Corporation, 1,500 pounds worth of trailer you can pull behind this thing. And I believe they use the SAE testing methods. I'm not entirely sure, but so when they say 1,500 pounds, you probably can. Of course, you got to include all the stuff you got hauling around in it, like your rather annoying bevy of cattle dogs that won't stop barking and had to go in the house because he's not behaving himself. And so there we go. Not a very interesting power plant for these times, and a pretty decent fuel economy, and it's a nice, reasonable engine for this truck, I must say. I like it. So there I was, rummaging around, as you do, and I found the Monroney. And here we have it. If you're able to freeze frame this video device, whatever you may be watching on you may have your iPhone or your laptop or your 79-inch, what is it called, plasma television. But here's the information as far as the equipment of this particular unit. And your final tally on this price is $38,315, I believe. Was it 3 or 9? Sorry. Is it? Oh, there we are. 39,000. That's not bad for this particular vehicle with this level of equipment. I don't think that's a bad price at all. As you can see, 25 miles per gallon city, 28 highway with a 26 combined. And it's got a boatload of stuff, in addition to being an AT4 model, which is a very nicely equipped. Quiet out there, dog. Don't make me come out there and say quiet to you out there. And he's just ignoring me. Cattle dogs. And here we have an excellent safety rating. I mean, that's very good, 5 stars. So there you go. That's your Monroney. If you were to go to your GMC dealership, you would see one on the wall, on the window, just like this. Maybe less, maybe more. A pretty car is like the melody. Boy, there's no better way to get rid of the few subscribers you have than to sing. Here we have the interior of the GMC Terrain AT4. And it looks very GM-ish if you're familiar with the GM product. But like all things, they've put a modern twist on their traditional way of doing things, and I think it's a very, very attractive interior. It has things I really like, such as radio knobs that make it easy and convenient to change radio channels and everything else. Although you could argue that once you get used to a particular vehicle, you can put everything in automated systems that you can access very easily from the steering wheel. And that's true. Very true. But if you're the kind of person that is constantly changing and adapting what you're doing, it's nice to have the knobs. The knobs are a good thing. And if you look down below here, you shall see this is where we have our drive selection system, where it is an all-wheel drive machine. So we have, why is it doing this? There we are. We have a terrain selection system that allows you to go 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel high, which means the center differential is not locked, so you can drive on the pavement with it in 4-wheel drive without doing any driveline damage. And then we have the off-road setting that will help you in much more arduous situations. Very convenient, very easy to work with, and all in all a very nice touch. The central display screen is very, very clear. I like that a lot. There is a heads-up display, and you know how I feel about those if you've been following all my video. But the This car has a very simple switch to just turn it off if you don't want it, and it stays off. You don't have to reset it every single time you start the car. Mazda. So I'm very thrilled about that. It's amazing. I'm easily amused and easily bored. But there we have our front area, and our dashboard, and our instrument column, and it's all very, very well thought out. Pretty intuitive for cars nowadays. There's so many that you have to take a long time. I always tend to judge how well something is designed by how long it takes me, and I drive between 50 and 60 cars a year, actually more than that, and how long it takes me to like select and put in my own personal choices in terms of radio stations. And this car doesn't take long enough. Once you learn each manufacturer's way of doing things, it makes it easier for us. But if you're going from, let's say, from a Ford or a Toyota into a GMC or a Stellantis product like a Ram pickup or something, a lot of times there's changes that will throw you for a loop initially. And then we get into the really interesting stuff like Mercedes, BMW. They really go crazy with some of their stuff. It works though, so that's all that really matters. But anyway, a very nice interior, this AT4. You know, I'm so intrigued by this new way of activating the transmission, which probably isn't new. I've just never seen it before. But there it is. These are these lift switches you see. And on the far left you can see we are currently in P. We're up to our heads in P, which is park. Drive. There you go. That's what you do to put it in drive. You want to go low? Let's go low. You go low there, and this will give you the option of going up and down. Like so. Then back to drive. You have to pull out. To put it in park, you push in, and now we're in park again. Interesting, isn't it? There are a total of we're operating with a very small engine, a 1.5 liter turbo, so it should shock no one to realize that you have a total of 9 speeds in this automatic transmission, so that you have the right cog for the right moment. And while it shifts quite a bit, it's very smooth. It seems to do a very nice job for the most part. I haven't had any situations so far that I thought the transmission was lost and was randomly trying to find the right gear. It seems to do a very good job overall. Nice box. And what of the rear door? What of it? Hey, not bad, huh? Actually pretty decent for what is, after all, a compact. I always thought this thing, it looked bigger than it actually is, but it's basically a compact SUV. The RAV4, CRV, Mazda CX-5, that kind of thing. In that category, but we have a pretty roomy situation in the back, but it's very nicely furnished too. And as you can see, the floor is completely flat. Always good for your foot room to have that situation. And we also have something I love, the panorama roof. Very common almost these days. People love their panoramas. See the world. See that gigantic dinosaur that's about to eat you. That kind of thing. Lunatic. Now, this may surprise you, but this has happened twice, and I haven't been able to get any footage of it. But the ball was underneath the rear of the Terrain, and our dog went down to get the ball, as one does, and the rear hatch opened. And it does this because it's got a kick sensor right there. And it opens. And that's great, unless your dog runs underneath there and opens it. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yes, guilty. Look at that. Guilty as charged. But anyway, that's something to remember if you do have one of these vehicles, and there's a lot of them now, that have a rear hatch that opens. simply by waving your foot underneath it, because your hands are full. You see, you got your groceries and your precious antiques and your dog. Maybe get one of them little lap dogs that you carry around with you everywhere. I don't know, but it's there for you. But remember, you're not the only one who can open it when it's unlocked. Okay, well, you know I don't like these heads-up displays, but maybe you do. So, behold. It's kind of like that thing on Star Trek that Sulu used to use, you know, when they were about to blow up something. It's quite interesting, actually. Okay, now, I'm trying to... It's amazingly difficult for me, for some reason, to get imagery of this thing, but I think that'll work. Okay. So the nice thing about this particular thing on the Terrain is, first of all, it's at a lower level. It's actually, it stays below and is clearly designed to stay below the level of the hood, which I really like because it doesn't obstruct your vision at all. Very smart. Now, you can start with just miles per hour, but look at there. There's your tachometer. Watch this. What does it say here? Look at that. Look at there. Pretty cool. And then you can have the whatever radio station you're on. And you can have, I don't know what that is. I think that's part of your navigation system if you have the data in there, and it'll tell you where to go, because it's certainly not a compass, because that would be the north compass rose and it's pointing due east, so no. And then you got your cruise control on the left telling you what's going on with that, and the digital speedometer, of course. And there you go. Still my fave. It's that one right there. Boy, that's nice. And then you can do this if you're like me. Farewell, oops. Farewell, my friend. And it's gone completely. Not to be an annoyance, if that's the way you feel about it. And it will stay down there until you summon it forth. You don't mean summon it forth again, don't you? Okay, we'll do that. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. That is kind of neat, I must say. But that's how that works. If you like heads-up displays, I think this is not a bad one at all. Oh, hi-ho, it's driving through the pasture we go. Hi-ho, hi-ho, hey, hi-ho, ha-ha. I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande. I drive around and sometimes to town. Woo. What else can I tell you about the Terrain? Well, in the old days, the Terrain used to be a body-on-frame truck-like vehicle. And the last one I drove that was like that many years ago had an it was like driving a big Buick. It had a very soft ride, but a very comfortable ride. And I would argue that, you know, people love going on and on about it's just a wallowing whale of a vehicle. Yeah, but for the kind of people that bought and drove those things, that wasn't a bad deal. And what it was, especially since they tended to travel long distances, go on vacations with the kids and everything else, it was a nice, comfortable car. But over time, like everything else, it evolved, and they wanted to save weight for fuel economy purposes. So they went to a unibody construction, which the Terrain now has. And the result is a much better handling, first of all. It's like dramatically better. But the ride quality is different. I wouldn't say it's worse. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better. But it does have a different character to it. You can tell an old style body on frame car right away when you drive it on a road that has any kind of bumps in it. The response is completely different. The Terrain has, I'd say, a slight bias toward being a little bit better handling, a little sharper handling, was the idea as opposed to pure ride quality. And like I say, there's nothing wrong with the ride quality. It's not like it rides rough or anything like that. It rides fine. But it does still ride like a truck, like an SUV, but not a body-on-frame truck. You follow me? Is all this make sense? You follow me? So that's what manufacturers are kind of up against. They're trying to reduce weight while maintain all the capabilities, and you got to have a heavy enough unibody system on it so that you can tow. I believe the towing limit on this vehicle is 5,000, 4,500 to 5,000. I better check. No, wait a minute, it can't be 5,000. 3,500? I'll look it up, and right along the bottom of the screen it will say what the trailer towing capability is. I'm going to guess 3,500, but it could be as high as 4,500. Anyway, I would be really blown away if it was 5,000, but this is, after all, a compact for the most part.
No. He's out of control and I want him killed.
He's not hurting anybody.
Does it slot in between the Acadia, which is their big three-row unit, and whatever the small version of the Equinox is? Is this the small version of the Equinox? You see how confusing it gets? It's absolutely crazy. Well, it's time to leave. It's time to leave. I'll tell you what, you know, I'm beginning to like this little old Terrain. It's not a bad vehicle. Oh man, it looks like I left my wallet at home again. And what the heck did I do? Wait a minute, I don't have my phone neither. I ain't got my wallet, I ain't got my phone. How the hell am I supposed to go and conduct business if I don't have my wallet and my phone with me? I go home and go back again. This thing turns around pretty good. I think it's got a pretty good turn radius for a little compact SUV. Of course, I don't really like turning around in the middle of the highway, but you know, when you forget your stuff, you forget your stuff. You know, it's becoming a regular thing with me. I may have to use a bungee cord or something. Yep.
Que